G'day, I'm Fraser Harrison from Agricom. So I'm Agricom's forage systems specialist operating throughout the South Island. So I grew up on a farm up in the King Country. I always knew that I'd be a part of agriculture and effectively made the move down to Lincoln University where I studied a Bachelor of Agricultural Science. Straight out of uni, I basically took on a role with Agricom being the Extension Agronomist for the wider Canterbury region and was the Extension Agronomist for about 6 years. Recently have just taken over this new role, which is really cool because it's basically a progression on from what I was doing and offering more technical support for the wider team. So I think the favourite thing about my job is the variation that you get day to day, and the thing that I always say to people is that you could spend 2 weeks with me and still be surprised with what you're doing in that third week, because no day's really the same, and the fact that there's a good balance around inside jobs versus outside jobs. I personally enjoy being out in the field, and that's probably something that I gravitate to. My favourite thing about Agricom is basically the people. The culture and the team is fantastic. The team's spread out across the country, but on any given day, at any given time, you can ring any one of the team for just a general yarn, a catch up, advice, anything. So I think the team culture is the best thing about Agricom. Yeah, one thing that's really encouraging for me is the support you get from the wider team to gravitate to what interests you the most. So they're really receptive to if you have a particular interest in, for example, endophytes, well, you can have a big focus on endophytes. But if you aren't really interested in endophytes and you're more interested in the animal side of things, well, you're really encouraged to focus on animals. So that's one thing that's really cool about the company is you actually get to gravitate to what interests you most. So you're not just stuck in a square box if you're a round circle, which is really cool. The other thing that's really cool about Agricom is that there's a big focus on integrity. We're in an industry where there's a lot of storytelling or concepts that aren't necessarily proven. One thing about Agricom is that the integrity of a system or data is very high. So whether it be a new product coming to market, whether it be a new concept coming to market, there's always a lot of data that stands behind that product. That's massive for me and for Agricom. Knowing the investment that goes into R&D and the time that goes into proving a concept or a product before that concept or product comes to market is really important, and that's something that Agricom does really well, and it's something that at the end of each day you can basically go home and know that you've given the best advice that you could possibly give to that farmer or client. Working at Agricom's been really good from a support structure in terms of personal development, opportunities to either go on courses, so I've done 2 postgraduate papers in the last 18 months. So the support from Agricom to do extra study or personal development is really high. If there's an opportunity that comes up, whether it be postgraduate study, whether it be a RMPP course, whether it be a leadership course or even overseas travel. I was lucky enough to get away to China for 3 or 4 weeks a couple of years ago. That was a really cool thing. So being part of the primary sector for me is very rewarding. I think to be able to make a difference to a farm system at a pastoral level is one of the highlights for me in the role. And I think going forward in an industry that's hugely important to both New Zealand and I guess as a globe, being part of that, both innovation and getting that to work on farm is really important. So that's something that I'm really passionate about, and yeah, it's pretty cool.